Well, Dr. Lloyd, thank you so much for joining me today. This is an exciting continuation of my podcast interview series. I want to read your bio. I'm going to also link it in the show notes for everybody, but Dr. Bill Lloyd is a board certified surgeon and pathologist and serves as the health director for Transamerica Advanced Markets. He's an award-winning medical educator and prolific author. Dr. Lloyd has extensive experience in health communications, online content development, and medical broadcasting. At Transamerica, Dr. Lloyd leads the Wealth+Health, Wealth and Health initiative through expert content creation along with live presentations to financial professionals and the public. Today, Dr. Lloyd is going to help us connect the dots when it comes to wealth and health as it relates to preparing for a secure and dignified retirement. Dr. Lloyd, anything you want to add? Did that do you justice?
It did me great justice, Jordan. It's great to be here with your Wernick Spear clients today, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful podcast experience.
Well, fantastic. And again, we appreciate it. Everybody who is listening in appreciates you taking the time. If we just jump right into it, based on your bio, I'm hoping that you can give us a better idea of what the Wealth and Health Initiative is.
Certainly. After the economic meltdown in 2008, there was a very rapid evolution of the financial services industry. And by that, I mean, it became less transactional and more conversational. Relationships between clients and their advisors, sharing information, filling gaps, developing plans. More about asking questions than pushing financial products. You know, Jordan, there's a lot of competition out there, and clients are smart, and they realize if they're not being serviced the way they need to be with regards to their needs today, and equally important, the guidance regarding the future, well, they're just going to pick up and go someplace else. Transamerica latched onto that very quickly, and 5 years ago, they discovered a powerful pathway wherein financial professionals like yourself and your clients can have deeper, more meaningful, more impactful conversations about today and tomorrow. They branded it the Wealth and Health Initiative. And basically what the Wealth and Health Initiative means is an individual's financial health and their physical wellness are linked in every season of life. And this is something that applies to a young couple with 2 children. Is dad taking his high blood pressure medication? Or maybe later in life, a single mom who's trying to, manage her diabetes all the while her high school son's trying to get into college. Or maybe that couple that turned 60, they finally have a little money. The kids are grown up and they're out of the house for the second time. They want to do a little traveling in 2022. In all 3 of those instances, Jordan, nothing happens without sound finances and the good health to enjoy it.
Well, I'm excited that you're going to take the opportunity to talk about the health aspect of things, because so often the client conversations that we have focus around finances, and we've seen the exact same phenomenon that you outlined, is that these conversations have gotten deeper, they've gotten more involved, they focused more on the qualitative portions of people's lives instead of just the financials. Now, I've listened to you give a few presentations, and a large portion of what you talk about is the demographic changes that we're seeing here in the United States. I'm hoping you can spend some time talking about what you're seeing and how that could potentially affect retirees and other age groups.
Sure. Well, here's the executive summary. America's getting older. America's getting a lot older. Jordan, 100 years ago, 102 years ago, when there was the great Spanish flu pandemic, the average American adult lived to be, get this, 47. That was the average life expectancy for an adult in the United States in 1919. Since that time, longevity in the United States has increased 81%. 81%. And it's not because of, the discovery of insulin or heart transplant surgery or highly targeted anti-cancer chemotherapy. No, it's about hand washing, public sanitation, and vaccines. Because of that, we now live long enough to get type 2 diabetes, to get heart disease, and God forbid, to get cancer. Let me give you a few examples. A 65-year-old male today, on average, will make it to just about 85. An average female who's 65 today will hit 86, but it's more than that. 1 out of 3 of them is going to make it to 90. 1 out of 7 is going to make it to 95. Jordan, this makes retirement the longest chapter in anyone's life. And this is something that has transformed over just a generation. Social Security came to be back in 1937, August 1937. And at that time, 7% of adults made it to 65. Uncle Sam knew, I'm not going to have to write too many checks and they're not going to get too many of them, right? But now we're going to have 95 million Americans in this country over the age of 65 in the year 2060. And here's the fun part. Every single one of them is already walking the planet. So we have this shift now where more and more older Americans living longer and longer. And oh, by the way, healthcare costs, they're never going to get lower. They're never even going to flatten. Healthcare for the past 20 years has always outpaced general inflation. In the 90s, it was twice the rate of inflation. So more and more people living longer, higher health costs, and there won't be enough doctors going around. The way things are mapping out right now, and many of you already experienced it, you don't see a doctor, you see a PA, you see a licensed nurse practitioner, and that's fine for the everyday humdrum stuff. But when you really need a doctor, will there be one around? This is why it's essential, thinking about that retirement journey, that you have plans in place and you're preparing yourself by making sure that you have adequate financial assets, that you have a retirement income stream that transcends Social Security. You mentioned a few minutes ago, Jordan, that clients, concerned about their finances, but in the back of their mind, they're thinking about their health as well. It's part of that wealth and health connection. Well, a series of surveys by Transamerica involving thousands of working adults tells us that 72% are number one worried about their health care and how to pay for health care during retirement. That is their chief concern. Will I have enough money for my retirement? And speaking of expenses in retirement, healthcare is number 4 on the list. And we're worried about that more than anything else. Housing, food and clothing, travel and entertainment, then healthcare. But everybody's worried about number 4. Will I have enough to cover my healthcare? Because many Americans are unaware how Social Security and Medicare work, and many operate under outdated concepts, thinking I'm just going to push a button, the money's going to be there, and I'll be fine. Heading into 2022, we know that's not the case. And if you were to rely exclusively on your Social Security for your health care costs going forward from age 65 forward, right? You would need roughly today, a couple retiring today would need 57% of all their Social Security dollars, 57% simply to cover their health care costs. And I just told you, it's number 4 on the list. How are you going to pay for everything else? You're going to need some clever work by an experienced financial professional to help identify additional income streams during retirement so you can have that dignified, comfortable, secure retirement.
There's so much to unpack there. I mean, just the statistics alone at the onset about longevity are mind-boggling. Can you help us understand, age aside, age plays a huge, important factor here, but age aside, what are some of the more expensive health issues that people are experiencing more and more often, most likely, whether we're talking retirement or pre-retirement in the United States?
Oh, you hit a really important point. The whole issue of chronic illness. Chronic illness are disorders that last a year or more that require ongoing maintenance, adjustments to your life, perhaps ongoing treatment and ongoing monitoring. And each of those verbs I used are expensive, are going to cost you money. Most of these chronic health conditions are diagnosed later in life, later in your work life, after 45, 50, 55. But the underpinnings of them started very early in life. And it's not until they become symptomatic or until there's an abnormal lab test or a vital sign that people decide to do something about it, feel the need to do something about it. So there's the proactive side earlier in life to keep you from getting these chronic health conditions, and then managing them as best you can after you've been diagnosed, if you have them. Why are these such a great concern? Well, having a chronic condition like high blood pressure, elevated lipids, type 2 diabetes, atherosclerotic heart disease, which can start very early in life, arthritis, COPD, emphysema, mostly from smoking. The list goes, there's hundreds of these diseases. But here's what we know about them. They're tied to a combination of genetics, environment, and lifestyle. So having the gene that makes you susceptible to high blood pressure doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have high blood pressure. But if you're eating too much fat and salt, you're going to up the chances. And if your lifestyle is one that you don't include exercise and you allow yourself to gain weight, well, then you have the trifecta and you become a prime candidate for high blood pressure and perhaps type 2 diabetes as well. So the notion that in your work life, you incorporate positive lifestyle choices, rigorous exercise on a regular basis, right? Making smart dietary choices, backing off from the alcohol, keep it down to 2 drinks a day, stop smoking and never smoke. These lifestyle choices are going to save you money today because you'll have lower insurance premiums. You'll have fewer doctor's visits because you have fewer diagnoses to care for, right? Fewer doctor visits, co-pays, deductibles, trips to the pharmacy. You can stop anytime you want. Generic pills, more deductibles, lab studies, paper strips. It just goes on and on and on. However, if you keep yourself healthy, you get to keep that money. Instead of paying the doctor, the insurance company, and the pharmacy, you can keep that money and pay it forward towards your retirement. And the exact same applies when the time comes to retire. Again, if you're enjoying great health because you've earned it and you've worked for it, well, then you'll be spending less out of pocket for your health care during retirement. And depending on what formula you have, what health plan you're under, what specific Medicare plan you're under, the out of pockets can be devastating, devastating. So stay healthy today, remain healthy in retirement, and that investment will help grow your assets altogether because you'll be spending less out of pocket to stay healthy.
So on my side of the business, there's different phases in people's financial lives. There's asset accumulation, there's asset protection and preservation, there's asset distribution, and there's different strategies that we help clients enact during different phases of their financial lives. You just hit on a bunch of really healthy habits that people can adopt. Is there anything specific that people need to be doing early in life versus middle-aged years versus retirement to make sure that their specific situation from a health standpoint is being monitored and taken care of as best as they can?
Sure. None of us operate in a vacuum. None of us are sleeved in a given void where we're just doing one thing. Life is multidimensional. At the end of the day, you have to add the children into the mix, right? So life can be very complicated. And so at Transamerica, with our Wealth and Health initiative, when it comes to young adults, in addition to talking to them about the value of a very positive, good credit rating, about the value of starting your savings as soon as you start working, as little as $50 a month, about enrolling in the health services, health savings account, your flexible spending account, certainly your IRA and 401k. Parallel to that, we encourage them to develop lifetime habits as it relates to healthier living. So that takes us right back to where we started. And first of all is just being the healthiest person you can be. I'll touch on that probably later if we talk about retirement. But if you already have a problem, let's say you already are diabetic, and there are millions of young adults who already have type 2 diabetes, well, then you can act on it right now. If you have a family history for it, you can act to prevent it from happening, and you can. And it all goes back to maintaining an ideal body weight. Everyone should know their BMI, their body mass index. It's a simple calculation. You go on Google, it won't take you 15 seconds. It basically asks you your height and your weight in pounds, and it will give you a number. And if your BMI number is greater than 25, then you are on the wrong trajectory, the wrong trajectory. You are heading off to an area where you're going to be more prone to endure chronic health conditions during your work life, and all of that extrapolates out during your retirement. What do I mean? Well, the Rand Corporation did a study in 2017. This will really wake people up. And they found out that healthcare costs increase with the number of chronic health conditions you have. Duh, that makes sense. Yeah, but it doesn't happen linearly. It happens exponentially. An individual that has 5 chronic health conditions, and there's a lot of people walking around with 5 chronic health conditions, they pay 14 times more for their health care than individuals that only have 1. Did you get that? 5 chronic conditions will raise your health costs 14-fold. All the more reason to focus on staying healthy earlier in life. So maintaining that ideal body weight is going to be central to it. Getting enough sleep, like your mother said. Americans rob themselves of restorative sleep, and they often find themselves maybe drinking too much at night with the hopes that it'll help them get to sleep. Oh, it will. Oh, you'll pass out for sure. But about 3 hours later, as that alcohol metabolizes in your body, the chemicals there will actually wake you up again, and you'll have a very restless night, and nobody needs to tell you what the next morning is going to be like. So again, no smoking, back off on the alcohol, and commit to daily exercise. And we've got the new year coming up. So, it's America's favorite New Year's resolution. Athletic clubs and fitness centers, they make their book for the entire year from New Year's resolutions in the month of January, knowing that most people who enroll and buy a 1-year membership aren't going to be there come the 1st of February. How can we make that change? How can we stop repeating the same bad habits that sabotage our efforts at better health? The answer is easy: partnership. Find a buddy, find a friend, find a spouse, a family member, find a neighbor to do the same thing you're doing, whether it's taking a brisk walk every evening after dinner, or going to the gym, or maybe being part of a basketball team, or going bicycling, indoor or outdoor, do that Peloton stuff. By having a partner, both you and your partner have built-in accountability. It doesn't mean you're shaming each other. It's just this strong emotional urge to be there because somebody else is counting on you. Partnership works when it comes to fitness. And the other tip I'd say about fitness is pick something you like. There are many ways to burn calories. And many people who don't like to walk and run discover they really like riding the bicycle, right? Or some people like walking the stairs. They go to the local high school football stadium, go up and down the steps. Other people are happy walking around the mall. Wear a mask, but you can do that too. The idea is take the time to decide what it is that gives you the most pleasure, because you won't stick with it if it gets boring, which means you have to be able to flip it up and throw in some variety now and then. Here is where having a partner pays off, because they have ideas too. And maybe they'd like to go bowling or try some other activities, go swimming, who knows? So by having a partner, you also have a built-in resource to keep your workouts fresh and interesting.
Accountability, companionship, it all makes sense. News headlines want us to believe that stress is also playing a huge part of people's lack of physical health right now, whether we're talking work-life balance, whether we're talking social media. Have you done any research into how stress is leading to more adverse health consequences for Americans?
It is a much under-discussed topic that needs more light and more understanding. We are all bathed in stress. A little bit of stress is helpful. It gets you out of bed in the morning. It gets you to put a tie on and look your best. But beyond that, it can be corrosive. And most experts who deal in public health and personal wellness attest that stress alone is the core. It's the hub that drives bad health and leads to early death. And yes, it can start early in life. It can influence appetite, and there's your body weight. It can influence your sleep habits, which leads to daytime sleepfulness, inability to sleep at night. It interacts with your immune system. We know this for a fact. When you're under stress, you have elevated circulating epinephrine and other neurotransmitters, and they poison the metabolism. They're good for short moment fight or flight syndrome. You know, I need to get away from this bad guy, and I've got 30 seconds to do it. Okay, your body can tolerate that. But if you're drowning in it hour after hour, whether it's from work or family situation, who knows what, or self-imposed stress, either way, the chemical effects of stress are altering your body's metabolism, your ability to break down fats and carbohydrates, right, leading to excess weight gain, and it also impairs your immune system. We know this to be a fact. It's like an anti-vaccine. It puts your immune system to sleep so that it doesn't recognize threats. And at the same time, it can fire up the autoimmune pathways that can be very harmful to you, whether this involves digestion, whether it involves joint comfort and flexibility, and the ability of the heart to pump blood throughout your body. This is why so many Americans are taking anti-anxiety medications, thinking it can help them get back to normal. Over the short run, they could. But in the meantime, I would say you'd be better served seeking the help of a behavioral health specialist. And many people are unaware of the coverage available to them by their employer and their health insurance plan. And many of those benefits have increased since the pandemic, allowing you, whether in person or through telehealth, to speak to a professional counselor, a licensed psychologist or behavioral therapist, to learn strategies that can help you enjoy life more. It works for so many other things. You can go and see a doctor. If you have migraine, the doctor can help the migraines occur less frequently, less severely. If you have cramps in your legs, you can go see a vascular surgeon or other doctors who identify what the problem is, and you're back to walking normal again. Same thing here. If you are crippled by stress and the effects of stress are affecting you in a negative way with regards to your weight, your health, your alertness, your immune system, then why wouldn't you get help? There's no stigma to it. Nobody really cares if you're seeing a therapist or getting help. In fact, the people who love you would probably feel proud of you that you've taken ownership of this challenge and you're going to see it through. So maybe that would be a very helpful resolution for people to think about in 2022. Come out from under the avalanche of stress. It'll take time, but you can do it.
It's really well said. I appreciate you saying that, actually. I keep drawing the parallels between, a healthy retirement in terms of physical and mental health and financial health. And part of what we do is prepare clients for any number of names: curveballs, speed bumps, roadblocks, whatever it may be. What are some of the most common retirement speed bumps or curveballs that you see on the health side of things?
Let me frame this answer by reminding our listeners today and the viewers here on the podcast that your wealth and your health are inseparable in every season of life. What's the point of accumulating all these assets and having a powerful account with Wernick Spear, but you're stuck in a wheelchair? What's the point of being able to play a round of golf on your 90th birthday? Where would you go? I'd go to Pebble. Yeah, but you can't afford the green fees. The wealth and health are linked in every season of life. And as you alluded to, life is full of curveballs. And Transamerica knows as an individual gets older, those curveballs come with more frequency, higher velocity, and more severe ferocity. And as you get older, your ability to navigate these challenges, right, may not be up to the task. They may seem insurmountable. And that's why it's always important to have a plan. And when dealing with your financial professional, yes, finances and money play a big part of it, but it's a big part of a plan. Money without a plan, right, is just naked assets, vulnerable. The bad things could happen to them real quickly. But if they have a plan in place, then good things can happen. So we'll talk about some of these curveballs. Well, biggest one in our life we've ever had was this 2-year pandemic. We hope it's coming to an end sometime soon. Unexpected illness, physical trauma. You hate to think about cancer, but here's an important fact. 85% of all cancers in the United States are diagnosed in adults over 50. That's right, over 50. And I don't mean just, little skin cancers. I mean all cancers. Right in the sweet spot. Your kids are growing up, they're out of the house, you paid off the mortgage, you're starting to focus on preparing for retirement, and boom, you have cancer. 40% of men will have cancer. 41% of women will have cancer. Now, here's the good news. According to the American Cancer Society in 2022, 70% of all cancers are curable. 70% will be alive 5 years from now without recurrence of disease. And about those others, advances in treatment for cancer now, even for those with advanced cancers, can become more of a chronic manageable condition, not necessarily a death sentence. So as you plan for a curveball like cancer, you're not planning to die. It's not about planning to give the money away. No, it's about planning to live, because cancer survivorship can be very expensive. Once you get through your treatment, you'll still be going back to the doctor. There'll still be scans. You'll still have deductibles and co-pays. By having a plan, you'll have the assets there, the proper insurance, proper supplemental policies, etc., because you've been guided to make the most positive informed choices about those decisions, so that you have the peace of mind for a secure, dignified, and financially secure retirement. Curveballs. I mentioned physical trauma. Yeah, automobile accidents, they can be devastating and they can be very expensive as well, and may lead to, the need for a long-term care in a assisted facility or a skilled nursing care facility. By the way, if you hit 85, Jordan, and you've never had cancer, the odds tell us you're going to die from trauma. You're going to die from the effects or the consequences of trauma. You hear a lot about people who fall and break a hip. Jordan, did you know that in the 12 months following a hip fracture, an individual is 7 times more likely to die than anybody else their age, whether they have cancer, dementia, whatever. You break a hip, you're in serious trouble. Oh, they'll fix the hip, but there's medical consequences that ensue afterwards, all right, that could shorten your life. So everybody taking care of somebody or knows somebody over 70, you might want to go by and visit them and see how safe and secure their house is. 47% of women over 70 live alone. How's that for a formula for trouble? So you think about these curveballs as well. But if you have a plan in place, you know what happens? You can see things coming down the road before they happen. You can adjust, you can change plans, alter strategies, because you've got a financial professional on your side that's going to guide you to making those smart choices, right? And even if it is something that you didn't count on, dementia, serious trauma, cancer, whatever. Having plans in place means you and your family can continue to enjoy life as it is going forward, right? So, nobody had a contingency plan for COVID-19, right? But businesses that were forward thinking, that had the people and resources and the technology in place to react to that challenge, they did just fine. The same applies to you. If you have plans in place, if you have directives, if you have your trust and estate and your will up to date, if you have articulated your intentions regarding healthcare decision-making, end-of-life decision-making, financial decision-making, and you have formalized those intentions in writing, and people know where those documents are. That's an important step, Jordan. They know where the papers are. Well, then your intentions will be honored. We call that independence. So even if you suffered a medical setback and you're not able to participate in healthcare decisions or financial decisions during your recovery, you know that your intentions are being honored. We call that independence.
Now, you briefly hit on one of what I'm going to refer to as scariest outcomes people can see in retirement and in older age, dementia, Alzheimer's. I'm hoping you can give us an idea of how common it is, what experiences they and their loved ones may go through, and
Sure.
even potential methods, or I hate to call it tips with such a serious issue, but potential methods for decreasing the likelihood that you suffer from dementia, Alzheimer's, any sort of
Sure.
illness like that.
The big umbrella term is dementia. Okay, so loss of cognitive skills, memory problems, decision-making problems. Then most of us are familiar, with the clinical signs and symptoms of people with dementia. About 2/3 of folks with new onset dementia, about 2 out of 3, are diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. So Alzheimer's disease is a specific diagnosis, whereas dementia is a symptom complex. There's many kinds of dementia. And many kinds of dementia are recognizable, diagnosable, treatable, and the dementia is reversible, and people need to know this. Somebody's acting goofy, you get them in to see a doctor for a comprehensive medical evaluation and a comprehensive medication evaluation. I mentioned how many elderly women live alone. You live alone, you fall, you bang your head, you don't remember it, nobody else saw it, and a month later you start acting goofy. Is that Alzheimer's? No. You have a doctor evaluation, they do a scan, they found out you got a blood clot in your brain, just like President Reagan had. They removed the blood clot, the dementia goes away, and life goes on. Here's another important cause. Doctors. Yeah, doctors. Doctors cause a lot of dementia in this country by writing prescriptions. Patients see lots of different doctors and lots of different health plans, different networks. Doctors don't talk to each other. The pharmacies certainly don't talk to each other. Oh, I get this one at CVS. Oh, Walgreens is closer. I'll go here today. I get some of my medications through the mail. We have a nation of older zombies roaming around because of the toxic interactions of too many medications. Same story. Aunt Betty, you saw her 4th of July. She was sharp, dressed so well, funny, told jokes. Then you bumped into her 2 weeks ago at Home Depot. She barely recognized you, and she had food stains on her clothes. You get Aunt Betty to the doctor and get that medication evaluation as well. You know the one. They tell you put it all in a brown paper bag. Your prescription medications, your over-the-counters, your herbals, your supplements, your eye drops, your chapstick, everything. They run it through the computer. They find out where the interactions are. They throw out one drug, substitute another, alter a dose. Boom. Aunt Betty comes back to life. That's not Alzheimer's. Okay, but what if it is? Alzheimer's disease, right now, progressive, incurable. There are no Alzheimer's survivors. So that is a totally different frame of focus for individuals to consider compared to, let's say, cancer. All right? For individuals with Alzheimer's, diagnosed with Alzheimer's, the one thing the family wants more than anything else is time. Time to plan and prepare. Hopefully, plans are already in place. Yes, it's true. Statistically, most people go out 5 to 7 years with Alzheimer's. By 2030, there'll be over 9 million Americans suffering from Alzheimer's disease. It's going to be an enormous challenge, right? So let's talk about that with the Alzheimer's. They're planning on getting their affairs in order so that the family can continue to enjoy life as it is going forward. Now, what if there is a diagnosis? Well, I say good news, because the medications only work early in an Alzheimer's diagnosis, in the mild to moderate stage. They have a tendency to kind of freeze the patient where they are. They don't get better, but they don't get a lot worse. They slow things down like pancake syrup. They just, molasses, just slow things down and extend that course, right? Buys the family some time and keeps the individual functional. Medications don't work in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's disease. At that point, it's mostly about keeping the individual comfortable. It's also important when there's a diagnosis that there's time, so again, the individual can articulate their intentions, and that they have the presence of mind to be able to participate in their affairs and decision making going forward, rather than appearing in court and have a judge assign a conservator to look after that individual. Sometimes it's not a family member. Sometimes the family members can't agree on what to do. And the judge will appoint an outsider, a stranger, who might charge the family $10,000 a month to look after Pop's affairs. It's not pretty. This is why we have plans. This is why everyone needs to work with their financial professional to get their house in order on financial, medical, legal, and ethical concerns. So again, your intentions are honored. Now, is there any miracles in the pipeline coming for Alzheimer's? We're not sure yet. We know there's a lot of very vigorous clinical research going on. Here's the funny thing about Alzheimer's. Up to about 10 years ago, all of them, because we didn't understand what the disease was, all of the energy went into creating drugs to manage symptoms. They didn't extend life, but they made that life at a much higher quality during those remaining years. But again, it wasn't therapeutic. It didn't reverse the disease, stop the disease in any way. Well, over the past 10 years, and the advances in molecular pathology and laboratory science, we now have a deeper understanding what's going on with the body, when did this start, what are the key pathways that are causing these things to happen. And so now we're developing therapies that are directed at those pathways, so you don't get to the Alzheimer's stage. We're still a long way out from it, but our country is going to be in trouble if we don't have a solution by 2030, and certainly by 2050, because the baby boomers are that enormous segment of our population. They are today, Americans born between 1945 and 65 still represent the largest subset of our population. They have the most money. By the way, they're spending the most money than any other part of our economy, of our population. And so between now and 2050, America is going to endure the aging of that baby boom generation. And with that is going to come a wellspring of Alzheimer's disease. The incidence of Alzheimer's increases with age. Everyone's heard those statistics, right? 10% by age 70, right? Over half by age 85. Well, if everybody's living to 85, you can see where that's going to go. How many people are actually going to have Alzheimer's? Unless we can identify a cure and identify a treatment to help reverse those statistics, and hopefully down the road prevent it from happening in the first place. So Alzheimer's is a very broad discussion, and I look forward to the opportunity perhaps sometimes down the road going deeper in the weeds about this, because there is a lot of hopeful information to share. But in the meantime, families still have to have plans in place.
Absolutely.
I wanted to touch on, you were asking about tips to prevent or tips to forestall, to delay, slow down the onset of Alzheimer's. And there's been very rigorous scientific research about that. So I'm going to share with your viewers today 5 important steps, some of which you've already heard about. These 5 have been shown in controlled studies to reduce the incidence of dementia, all causes, dementia, and extend survivability and quality of life as people get older, to protect yourself and your families. And the first one is be the best patient possible. What are you talking about? Well, by the time you're 70, you probably have a couple of chronic health problems, high blood pressure, maybe you have diabetes, maybe your lipids are a little too high. By being the best patient possible, meaning doing exactly what the doctor says, getting your exercise, taking the medication as prescribed, constantly asking the doctor, is this the best medication I should be on? Is there something better that I should be taking? Am I where I'm supposed to be? If you're able to do that, then you are going to help the body's ability to deliver fresh blood to the brain. Jordan, the brain is only interested in oxygen. That's the end game. Any disease that interferes with the delivery of fresh blood to the brain, all the ones I just mentioned, that reduce the amount of oxygen that gets to the brain, accelerates and intensifies the development of dementia. So conversely, anything of a healthy nature that permits the heart to beat stronger, that keeps the pipes open and allows more oxygen to get to the brain is going to forestall and hopefully prevent the development of dementia. The second one, also mentioned, exercise. I call it calibrated exercise. You get over 70, you got aches and pains and limitations. So if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, swim. If you can't swim, climb the stairs. If you can't climb the stairs, right, go back to swimming. Or sit in your chair and just stand up and sit down and stand up and do sets of 10 of those multiple times a day. By staying vigorously physically active, again, you strengthen your heart, you improve your oxygenation. The third one, we haven't spent much time talking about that, is nutrition. Fill your diet with the right kinds of food, the right quantities of food, and be sure you add plenty of superfoods. Right? These are foods that are loaded in antioxidants. Your leafy vegetables, anything with color, red peppers, blueberries. I keep a pound of blueberries in my refrigerator at all times. And I always find a way to add more blueberries to whatever else I'm enjoying, with pancakes or breakfast cereal, ice cream at night, whatever. Blueberries are powerful chemicals inside them. How does that work with regards to the brain? This is important to know. The day you're born, you have every cell in your brain you're ever going to have. It's a one-time bank deposit. You will never make another brain cell. It's done. And as you get older, the number of those cells start to deplete. At one point, it could be as high as 10,000 cells a day. It's okay, you got billions of them, all right? But you don't want to lose too many of them. And most of these cells that degenerate do so because of the toxic accumulation of waste products in those cells from just a lifetime of metabolism, right? End products of chemical reactions inside those cells, right? And they don't have a means to disgorge that waste material. But if you're eating a diet loaded with antioxidants, these superfoods, well, they travel in the circulation. Oh, blood to the brain again. Yeah, just like oxygen. Now you're getting these antioxidants into your brain cells, and they will scrub the inside of those cells, and they will neutralize and eliminate those toxic waste products and keep your brain cells healthy. So what did we say? Be the best patient, calibrated exercise, nutrition. Number 4, what about those puzzles? Sudoku is going to save my life. Did I pronounce that right? Sudoku? Maybe not. The evidence is a little flimsy. The nation's leading maker of brain games actually paid a huge fine to the Federal Trade Commission for overstating the benefits of the puzzles. Here's Dr. Bill's advice. If you're going to do the crossword puzzle every day, do it with someone else. You heard me right. Sit across the table with someone else and solve that puzzle. In addition to the intellectual challenge of doing the puzzle, the socialization has equal, perhaps superior benefits, right? Same applies to learning a new language, right? Getting back to an old musical instrument you used to play, or pick up a new instrument. Earlier in life, I took piano lessons for over 20 years, got away from it. Then we had pandemic, we went into lockdown. I'm back playing that piano again. And my piano teacher is 80. We have a lot of fun together, right? So do the puzzles and the intellectual stimulation, but don't do it alone. And then the fifth one, you're never going to get it. I've listed these 5 for all kinds of groups, live audiences in the past, and someone will always yell out from the back of the room, how about sex? Yeah, I'm all for it, but that's not the 5th item. The 5th item, to protect your brain, your family's brain, and preserve you so that you don't experience the ravages of dementia, you're going to love it, is dancing. That's right, dancing. There's powerful scientific evidence in the British Medical Journal and other published peer-reviewed reports that show the lasting benefits that accrue to adults who dance. What happens when you dance? Well, first of all, you're vertical, you're upright, you're carrying your own weight, you're strengthening your bones, you're building your core. As you move around, you hear the music, you stimulate memories. Who sang that song? Where did I first hear it, right? You're interacting with another human being, you're smiling, talking, kissing. I don't mean this kind of dancing, I mean ballroom dancing, the real kind of dancing. Physical contact, balance, equilibrium. All of these are elevated by dancing regularly. Before we got married, my wife and I actually took dance lessons. We didn't want to, look like idiots at our wedding. So we took dance lessons. We had a beautiful dance there. But we made a promise to each other. I forgot to mention, at that wedding, our song was Anne Murray, kind of a cowboy song. May I have this dance for the rest of my life. May I have this dance for the rest of my life. And we're here in Texas. I'm just north of Dallas, and we love country music. So we play it in the house all the time. And we made a pledge. Whenever we hear that song again, wherever we are, I'm in the garage, she's in the bedroom, we meet in the living room and we dance. I encourage everyone, if you haven't started, now's the time. It also counts as physical activity, and you never know, it might protect your brain from the damaging effects of dementia. Jordan, I think I hit all 5 of them.
I think you did too. And for the listeners, I mean, all of those 5 methods that Dr. Lloyd just listed can help you with much more than protecting your brain from dementia. It's giving you nutrition, physical activity, which will protect you against a number of different ailments, I'm sure. And you really got yourself out of the last question, which was going to be provide listeners with some actionable tips or ideas for helping write their New Year's resolutions. And I know my wife and I have already done so. I'll share that with everybody. We've been keeping a vegan diet at home, which really helps to add in those superfoods into your daily intake. And I'll be honest, when we leave the house, it's anything but vegan. I'm chowing down on a steak or something, but it's that compromise that makes it actionable. And B, writing down your exercises and setting it recurring on your digital calendar or on your physical calendar will hold you accountable. Dr. Lloyd, if there's anything else you want to add, please do. But I think you've given us a lot of fodder to write those New Year's resolutions, and you've given us a ton of really insightful, thoughtful material and statistics. And I'm interested to read more of some of Transamerica's Health and Wealth Initiative publications. I'll post plenty of links in the show notes for people. Please take the time to add anything that you'd like, but if not, we really appreciate you taking the time today.
Certainly. Everything I've talked about today is available at transamerica.com. You just go into the resources page and look for what's called the Knowledge Place. And now it outlines all the different educational programs we have. Smart decision making for Social Security, Medicare. These are programs wherein you partner with Jordan or other members of Wernick Spear to make those smartest choices. And of course, all of this content is available in hard copy, print form from Jordan, who's able to acquire it from his Transamerica wholesaler. And by using these tools and proven strategies, you can prepare yourself for a more healthy, a more financially secure, and a more dignified retirement. It's been a great experience being with you. I look forward to the opportunity to possible future podcasts and perhaps even a live event sometime in the future.
Twist my arm. Thanks so much, Dr. Lloyd. Really appreciate it. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Everyone stay well.